let me introduce my coworker, Jennifer Hitchcock. She's the young adult librarian. I work also at Barnes & Noble, which is also a very good job, so I'm surrounded by books constantly. I didn't know a lot about Mike when I first started working there, but I knew he was funny and he sang a lot. And I've only done a couple of story times over at Barnes & Noble, but I did one story time over at Barnes & Noble. And when I finished, a little boy came up to talk to me, and I said, okay, well, this is good. Maybe he's coming up to tell me he liked the story time, but what he said to me was, is Mike coming back soon? And I said, you mean Mike? Mike Little? And he's like, yeah, we like Mike a lot. He plays guitar and he's really funny. I'd really like Mike to come back to story time. I was like, I think Mike moved to Tibet and became a monk. Anyway, so he is a pretty funny guy. And here's Mike.
Hello, hello. So glad to see all of you here tonight. Especially you from the Dragonfly Cafe. I saw you guys perform at Barnes & Noble when we did a band book event.
Yep.
Some really talented writers amongst you. All right, I've got a little introduction here. My name is Mike Little. I work as a bookseller, and when I'm not doing that, I'm working on my writing. I've been working on a multimedia novel called The People's Republic of Retail since 2010. I've written a book of poetry called Strange World Weather. I also have a blog, which you can read by going to lmlittle.blogspot.com. I want to thank Darla and the Fruitville Library for spearheading this event and providing an opportunity for local aspiring writers to display and perform their work. I don't know if you've seen the display out there, but several of us have pieces in there. Okay, I'm going to read my poem called Blue Sky Murder tonight. Poetry can cover a wide range of different things. In a 1956 article for Newsweek, Robert Frost referred to modern free verse poetry, saying that he would rather play tennis with the net down. I respect Robert Frost and I love his writing. But the democratization that happened through free verse is akin to our modern day digital revolution, where anybody can speak and express themselves. Poetry does not have to rhyme or have structure. It can be confessional or fictional. The only boundaries are the limits of your imagination. I love it when doors open in creative fields. Art was never meant for a small group of wealthy patrons. It should be enjoyed by all. It should be practiced by all. Blue Sky Murder is written from the perspective of a young poet in New York who is finding inspiration in the city and in jazz music. This is not only fueling his writing, but opening the doors to spiritual enlightenment. This is a reflection of my own yearning. Without further ado. All right, you see it all right?
Yep.
Blue Sky Murder. It's a blue murder kind of day with the night screaming in like an airplane over the long, long spires of the city. There's something intangible in the air, something indefinable. Ghosts rising like steam from the early morning underbelly of the city. Echoes of laughing children playing in the fire hydrant-soaked streets. A shotgun blast in an alley. A Puerto Rican mother calling out for a lost child in the night. A rent party in a tenement building. A couple making love in a cold water flat. The city is alive, a living thing, an artery, a pulse. But it's the people who make it breathe, give it form and soul. It's a pencil sharpened to a fine point with a scratchy record spinning in slow revolutions. It's Charlie Christian, Dizzy and Monk at mittens, with Ralph Ellison scribbling in the wings. There's something in the edges, in the marrow. The red moon rises high above the parched city. A writer bespectacled sits back in his chair, shirtless, smoking in the darkness, staring at the crumpled sheets of paper on the floor, his typewriter oiled like a machine gun, awaits. He begins again. It's seminal bop in the dying hour at mittens, with Ralph Ellison scribbling furiously. It's Charlie Parker laughing at a juggler. It's Blue Miles with a chip on his shoulder 10 miles wide. It's Dancing Monk, a whirling dervish in geometric ecstasy. idiosyncratic eccentricity. It's red monk, yellow monk, green monk, go. It's Prez with his pork pie hat and its contorted sacks catching the corner of Billy's eye. It's Dexter Gordon in a Paris cafe. It's Kerouac and Ginsberg and Neil writing to the beat, dancing to the beat, living to the beat. It's Louis Armstrong on the Voodoo Bayou blowing Gabriel's trumpet over swirling bones in the Mississippi. It's Huey with his spear in a wicker-back chair. It's Angela Davis's hair. It's Sonny Rollins on the Williamsburg Bridge riffing on a note, a note, a note. It's John Coltrane calling out to Krishna, Allah, Jehovah, Elohim. His spirit flaps in the wind like Tibetan prayer flags, strung along mountain ridges and peaks high in the Himalayas. He is everywhere there is yearning for God. John Coltrane walking along the Via Dolorosa in Jerusalem. John Coltrane on the Hajj encircling the Kaaba with the throngs of the faithful. John Coltrane bathing in the Ganges. John Coltrane, a whisper of a breeze in a Buddhist temple in Japan. John Coltrane, a ripple of sand in a Zen garden. Eric Dolphy, Booker Little, Clifford Brown, John Coltrane. Still shining like light from capsized stars, still burning bright in the darkness, darkness, darkness. It's dark and quiet at the 5 Spot. None of the usual rattling of ice cubes, no tinkling glasses or ringing cash registers. On the bandstand, Don Cherry, Billy Higgins, Charlie Hayden, Ornette Coleman are poised, about to change the face of jazz. No recording equipment, nothing to contain the moment. Charlie Hayden closes his eyes, the music begins. It's pure Jackson Pollock splatter paint abstract expressionism. It pulses with freedom, freedom, freedom. The bars slam shut behind him, bedroll still in hand. He lays it down, grabs a pencil and kneels down. On the corner wall he begins to write, "This cell cannot contain me, these walls will not break me." Over and over until his cell is covered. Washed away, he begins again. "This cell cannot contain me. These walls will not break me." In a jail cell in Birmingham, a reverend picks up that pencil like a baton and begins to write. A woman refuses to give up her seat on a bus. In Arkansas, Faubus sits like Cerberus with all his power and might, doomed to be vanquished by school children. On the Mystic River, Van Morrison sings, until he spirals into ecstasy. And the poet pulls the last sheet of paper from his typewriter, stacks it neatly on his desk, lights a cigarette, goes to the window, and watches the first light of day break over the Hudson. As Kind of Blue stops and begins again on his record player, with Miles and John Coltrane and Cannonball and Paul Chambers and Bill Evans and Jimmy Cobb alive again in that studio on 30th Street. And the music plays and refills the empty cup once again as the typewriter waits and the blue sky looms long above the spires of the city.
Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to go grab my sheet. Gotta go in the back. Hello, everyone. So if you want to use the microphone,